Welcome to the Bond Briefing, where we uncover the untold stories of 007. Today we're examining one of the most fascinating questions for Bond fans. What are the key differences between Ian Fleming's novel On Her Majesty's Secret Service and its 1969 film adaptation? On Her Majesty's Secret Service stands out in the Bond series as one of the most faithful adaptations, yet it still features important changes that shape the story in unique ways. Both the novel and the film follow the same core narrative. Bond falls in love, confronts his greatest adversary in Blofeld, and endures one of the most heartbreaking moments of his life. However, subtle differences in character development, pacing, and key plot points create two distinct experiences of the same story. Let's break down the major differences, starting with how faithful the movie is to the book. Surprisingly, the 1969 film remains very close to the novel. Unlike other adaptations, such as You Only Live Twice or Moonraker, which take major liberties with Fleming's stories, On Her Majesty's Secret Service keeps most of the book's defining moments intact. Bond meets Tracy and rescues her from danger, infiltrates Blofeld's Piz Gloria mountain hideout, and confronts the villain's terrifying scheme to use brainwashed women to spread biological warfare. Bond and Tracy's romance blossoms into marriage, and Tracy's tragic fate remains a central element in both versions. While the storyline largely matches, differences in pacing, character interactions, and the way events unfold create unique interpretations. The novel tends to be more introspective, giving Bond a reflective edge that the film conveys more through visual storytelling and performance. Bond's emotional depth, more in the book. The book offers a deeper exploration of Bond's emotional life, providing insights into his inner struggles rarely seen elsewhere in the series. Fleming presents a Bond at a crossroads, considering leaving MI6 and imagining a life away from the constant dangers of espionage. His relationship with Tracy is more than a fleeting romantic adventure. It represents a chance for genuine connection, a moment where Bond wonders if he can abandon the spy life entirely. The film touches on these ideas, but in a subtler way. Bond's emotions are conveyed visually rather than through introspection, making his emotional transformation less explicit but still compelling. Despite this, the final moments retain powerful emotional resonance, delivering one of the most unforgettable conclusions in Bond history. Bond and Tracy's relationship. Different introductions. Bond's romance with Tracy is central to the story, but the way they meet differs between the book and the movie. In the novel, Bond first encounters Tracy at the Royal Le Haut casino, where she gambles recklessly beyond her means. Bond intervenes to cover her losses, and that night they spend time together. The following morning, Tracy attempts to drown herself in the sea, and Bond saves her life. The film rearranges these events for dramatic effect. Bond first meets Tracy while preventing her from walking into the ocean, and their casino encounter follows afterward. This adjustment emphasizes Bond's positive influence on her life, making the relationship feel transformative and giving Tracy a renewed sense of purpose. The book delves more into Tracy's troubled background, whereas the film streamlines her story to highlight the emotional impact of their bond. Bond's cover at Piz Gloria higher stakes in the novel. One of the most suspenseful moments occurs when Bond's cover is at risk at Piz Gloria. In the novel, the tension is heightened because an MI6 colleague, also undercover, is captured and immediately recognizes Bond. He must act as if he knows nothing, fully aware that any mistake could mean execution. Bond's calculated decision-making under this pressure amplifies the suspense, forcing readers to experience his immediate danger and strategic thinking. The film presents a slightly different scenario. Bond is exposed while sneaking into one of the girls' rooms, where Irma Blunt surprises him. He is then ambushed and captured by Blofeld's guards. The fate of the MI6 colleague is revealed later, but the immediate threat comes from Bond's infiltration rather than his allies' recognition. Both versions succeed dramatically, but the novel's approach emphasizes high-stakes tension and suspense over cinematic action. Blofeld's appearance, a major contrast. Blofeld himself differs significantly between book and film. In the movie, Telly Savalas portrays him as bald, imposing, and charismatic, with a commanding presence that immediately signals danger. In Fleming's book, the novel's Blofeld, however, is described as having white hair, a diseased nose, and lacking earlobes. More importantly, the book establishes Blofeld as a master of disguise, constantly altering his physical appearance to evade capture. This explains why his look in On Her Majesty's Secret Service is so different from Thunderball, where he was previously described as a much larger, physically intimidating man, more in line with Savalas's build. The film removes this element, keeping Blofeld's appearance consistent and making him a more traditional, recognizable villain, Tracy's fate. A major difference in the book. One of the biggest differences between the book and the movie is what happens to Tracy during the climax of the story. In the film, after Bond and Tracy escape from Piz Gloria, they take shelter in a barn. However, before they can make it to safety, Blofeld's men ambush them, capturing Tracy and taking her back to Piz Gloria. This sets up a more conventional damsel in distress scenario, where Bond must return to rescue her in the final assault. The book takes a very different approach. Bond and Tracy successfully escape Blofeld's forces and make it back to safety together. Tracy is never kidnapped, and Bond doesn't have to return to Piz Gloria specifically to save her. Instead, he regroups and works with Marc-Ange Draco's men to plan an attack on Blofeld's fortress purely to bring down his operation, not to rescue Tracy. This change in the film shifts the dynamic of Tracy's role in the story. By making her a hostage, the movie gives Bond a more personal reason to return to Piz Gloria. However, the book keeps Tracy more active and independent, allowing her to escape on her own rather than being used as leverage against Bond. Both versions are compelling, but the novel's take avoids a more typical action movie trope and keeps the focus on Bond's mission rather than a rescue operation. Both the book and the film conclude with one of the most devastating moments in Bond history, Tracy's tragic death at the hands of Blofeld and Irma Bunt. But the novel includes a small detail that foreshadows the ambush. As Bond and Tracy drive away from their wedding, they pass a gas station where Bond briefly notices a red Maserati being refueled. Inside are a man and a woman dressed in white dust coats, helmets, and dark goggles, obscuring most of their faces. To Bond, they appear to be just another pair of German speed enthusiasts, and he pays them little attention. However, later in the book, it's revealed that these two were none other than Blofeld and Irma Bunt, already in position for their attack. Fleming subtly plants this moment as an eerie warning. Bond unknowingly sees his enemies just moments before they strike, but by the time he realizes it, it's too late. The movie omits this moment, making the ambush feel more sudden and unexpected. Without this brief but chilling foreshadowing, Tracy's death comes across as a more immediate and shocking twist, whereas the novel instills a sense of inevitable doom. Final thoughts. Which version does it best? Both versions of On Her Majesty's Secret Service are among the best in the Bond series. The book offers deeper character exploration, while the film heightens the tension and emotional weight. Which do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to the Bond Briefing for more in-depth Bond content. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and remember, we have all the time in the world.